Robbins News Station. This is KRON 4 News Weekend.
And a very good Sunday morning to you. Welcome back to KRON 4 News Weekend. I'm Marty Gonzalez. Isabel and Henry are off today. In the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to focus on a new year and a new you. One of our guests this morning will tell us why it's so important to focus on the good stuff in our lives. Also, if you're looking for a new job in the new year, we're going to learn from an expert the secrets of a successful job interview. All that coming up this hour. Good morning, and we are back on KRON 4 News Weekend. We're turning the page to a brand new year, and we have a new guest with us who's reminding us to focus on the good stuff. It's the title of a brand new book that's now in its 4th printing, A Way to Change Your Life. The author is Mike Robbins, and he's joining us this morning. Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us on this final weekend of 2007. It's a time when a lot of people are focusing their energies on resolutions.
Yeah.
And for so many of us, those resolutions just don't work. They don't hold.
They really don't, and you know, it's unfortunate because a lot of people I talk to end up getting sort of cynical about the whole process, and they say, I don't even make them anymore.
What's the point?
Right. So what I teach people is, I think New Year's, for me personally and for the clients that I work with, can be a really sacred and special time if we know how to approach it. And really there's kind of 2 sides to it. We've got to spend some time reflecting on and completing the past year that's ending, and then spend some time actually creating our goals or what we want for the new year. So there's sort of 2 sides to the coin, and often we forget that first part of really bringing some completion to the year, which is part of why the resolutions don't work in the new year.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that most people forget about.
Yeah.
Is looking back at accomplishments or things that might have worked a little bit better.
Yes.
And then moving on. So you're saying that the closure for the past year is very important.
Well, it's really important because you can't create something new until you complete something that's ended. So here are the 3 things that I recommend that people do, and ideally today or tomorrow, as we're completing the year. The first thing is to look back on some of the disappointments or the challenges or the failures, because we all have them.
Of course.
And not to dwell on them, but to actually look at them and acknowledge them. And then the second part is, what are the lessons that we've learned
to learn from them,
from some of those challenges. And then the third part, and this is the part where we really get into focusing on the good stuff, is to celebrate the good stuff. Really acknowledge ourselves, and sometimes even when it's been a bad year, we can celebrate that it's over. And when we've had some good things happen, which many of us have, to take some time to really pat ourselves on the back and appreciate that good stuff that's happened.
So in essence, what you're doing is you're looking for the victories, no matter how small they might be, and cherishing those.
Yeah, and once we do that, and my friends and I will actually get together with my wife and our daughter tomorrow night at our house and do kind of a ritual for that, where we really bring some closure to the year. Then what that leads us to is the second part, which is creating the new year, which I like to do especially on the 1st, because it's kind of got that new year feel to it.
Sure.
And that's where we can get into really creating our goals and our intentions for the year. I don't like to call them resolutions, because I think resolutions have sort of a bad connotation, you know what I mean?
So you call them intentions?
Yeah, well, there's actually an intention is kind of broad. Like an intention might be, I want to be healthy, which is a great intention.
Of course.
Then a goal is something specific and measurable. So if I'm working with a client and they say, I want to be more healthy, I'll say, well, what's a specific goal? And it might be a specific number on the scale or something that they go after so that they can really measure it.
So the intention is the big picture.
Yeah.
And then the goal is the very specific action that you want to accomplish.
Exactly. Well, the goal is the outcome, and then there's action. So you want to have intentions, goals, and actions. And the reason why, again, they often don't work is because we're not clear about them, and we don't tell anyone else or have any accountability. So that's a really important piece, is create what you want, the intentions, the goals, the actions that go with them, and then tell someone else, a friend, a coach, a success partner, whoever it is, someone that's going to hold you accountable, and then check back in with them on a regular basis so that it's not just this intention you make on January 1st and then by the 1st of February you forgot about it.
So in other words, by telling someone you are putting it out there and holding yourself accountable.
Exactly.
That I've made a public declaration, I'm going to do this, now follow through.
Yeah, like what I'll do with my own goals, I'll write them down, actually type them up, put them in a frame, put them up on my wall in my office, and then I'll actually tell the people in my life, some of my close important friends, and then every quarter I'll check back in with them and let them know how I'm doing. And I recommend to my clients and people who read my book that they do the same thing in terms of their own goals and intentions, because that's how they become real, is by us telling other people and then practicing them all the time.
How big should this list be?
Well, it's a personal thing. You don't want it to be a laundry list of to-do things.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to keep it to 10 or less. And for some people, it's only 3 things. For some others, it's 5. It doesn't really matter how many. It's just you want to be able to really see yourself making the things happen, but you also want them to be a bit of a stretch. If any of my clients complete all their goals for the year, no problem, I always say to them, I don't think they were quite big enough, because they really want to stretch you. And the important thing, though, to remember, the paradox with goals and intentions is, as important as they are, we got to remember that it's not always about just accomplishing them. Because in life, things happen. So while, of course, we want to accomplish them, it's really about the journey. So the paradox is we set the goals and the intentions to put our focus in the right direction, and then we kind of let it go and trust life and the universe that they'll work out the way they're supposed to.
So it sounds to me like what you're doing is that you are understanding that while you're setting these goals, you're understanding that you may not reach all of them, and in fact, it's likely you won't.
Well, I'll give you an example from my own life, and I talk about this and focus on the good stuff. My goal since I was a little kid was to play in the major leagues. I grew up here in the Bay Area, actually got drafted by the New York Yankees out of high school, but I didn't sign with the Yankees. I actually went to Stanford and played there, and then I got drafted by the Kansas City Royals. And my third season in the minor leagues with the Kansas City Royals, I blew my arm out, and my baseball career ended. And it was devastating for me.
Sure, of course.
But the one thing that I say to people all over the country when I'm speaking, especially to young people, is even though that goal didn't happen, and it was challenging for me, it was really important that I had it, because it got me an education, it focused me, it kept me in shape. A lot of good things came out of having that goal, even though I never accomplished it. So sometimes just having a goal, as long as we don't get too attached, like we have to make it happen, it can be a really positive thing.
It would seem that one of the toughest things is to tell your clients or to tell anyone not to get too attached to your goals.
Right. Well, and the thing about it is, again, that's the whole paradox of it, is focus on it. You want it to be clear and specific, but at the same time, you want to sort of let it go. And I believe the more focused we are, the more diligent we are about creating our goals, it's actually easier to let them go. When they're sort of vague, or we don't like to talk about them because we're scared they're not going to happen, or they're sort of secret until they do happen, we actually are usually more attached than when we're very specific about them, and then know that at the end of the year or the end of the period that we're creating the goals, we're going to create new goals anyway.
Sure.
So it's really about the journey. It's not so much about getting there.
Let's go back for a second to the ceremony that you talk
Yes.
about, the cleansing, so to
Yes.
speak, of 2007 and then looking forward to 2008.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Take us through that.
Well, here's what I recommend that people do, and what we'll do at my house tomorrow night is we'll sit around in a circle with just a few friends, and we'll go around, and the first part of it will actually be talking about, again, some of those disappointments, those challenges, those failures, if you will, but not dwelling on them, but just to acknowledge them and how we feel about them, and just to kind of let them go. In some cases, my wife likes to write things down and rip up pieces of paper or burn them, really to get rid of them. It's kind of like, what are we letting go of?
Sure.
The second time we'll go around the circle is everyone will have time to, it would almost seem like brag a little bit, but really celebrate the successes, to talk about, wow, I'm really proud of myself for this, or I'm really glad I learned this year, or this was a real big win for me. And in the process of doing that, at the end of it, what we all say is, I declare 2007, in this case, complete. So that we can walk away from the ceremony feeling like the year is complete, and now on the 1st, which will be the following day, we can then create our new goals with that clean slate.
Are these two separate ceremonies?
Yeah, and then the ceremony in terms of the setting the goals, I like to do on the 1st, and usually I'll do it personally myself, and then I'll just share my goals with my wife and with other people. But you can get together with people as well. But often people gather on New Year's Eve to do all kinds of things, right?
Of course.
But I like to say, before you go out and party, sit down and actually do some completion for the year, so you set yourself up for success in the new year.
We've been talking to Mike Robbins. He's a motivational speaker and an author of Focus on the Good Stuff, and you can see Mike on Friday, January 4th at, let's see, 7:30 p.m. at the East-West Bookstore in Mountain View, and also on Saturday, January 5th from 1:30 to 5:30 in the afternoon. You actually have an interactive workshop that's taking place as well. So if you want to focus on the good stuff, now you know where you can go, East-West Bookstore in Mountain View. Mike Robbins, thanks so much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Hey, you too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. All right.